Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about extra copies of Pokemon cards. This is something we've touched on before in the past, but they've become a bit more prominent, and there are some changes happening behind the scenes with grading companies I wanted to talk about, and just make you guys more aware and give you a better understanding on what extra copies are and how they affect the market. So extra copies are simply just extra Pokemon cards given out from Pokemon to staff members, artists, or whoever they decide. That's really it. And overall, it's not a huge deal, especially when you're looking at cards like Charizard Unlimited, base set Weedle. No one's concerned if there's more Caterpies out there or a couple extra Charizard V-Stars. However, when you start doing the same thing with the ultra rare cards, people take notice. Because when you're dealing with cards with maybe a few hundred copies, like the top of the mountain, it's much easier to quantify where it came from, what's going on, and please believe there are plenty of deep state E4 detectives who can tell you where every card came from. They don't own a single one of these cards, but they know all about it. They know everything. They're tracking that harder than TSA tracks us. Like, they know everything. So there's plenty of people out there who have tracked these ultra rare cards, and some of them don't like it. And if you had to ask me, do I have a prejudice towards extra copies? I think how I'd respond to it is I have a preference. I would prefer an organic copy, but I don't have a prejudice necessarily towards an extra copy. It's something that exists in pretty much every other hobby. They're called different things like backdoor copy, clubhouse. There's so many things, so many different terms, because at the end of the day, Pokemon is printing merchandise. They are printing items, and more specifically, Pokemon's not really getting a kickback from this themselves. Like maybe the rogue employee who goes and sells his card 20 years later, makes some money on it because crazy basement dwellers like us are the ones who want to pay these astronomical prices. But at the end of the day, majority, if not all, these cards, these ultra rare cards, are given out from Pokemon for free. But again, they print this through a facility. For us and for me back in the day, smpratte circa 2005, 6, 7, my level 1 Poliwag Squirtle perspective thought, it's just like Willy Wonka, and everything has so much care, and they're all collector whatever focus. They care so much about these cards. It's just a factory printing these cards, and I'm sure some of them are dumped. Maybe some go to staff members. They didn't see it as this big stonk thing, And more specifically, when people ask me if I have a prejudice towards extras, I grew up in the time when most of these rare cards were just organic. It was before the times when printers were going burr. For example, the illustrator I have on eBay was the only known illustrator for over a decade. It was just that illustrator for a good 10 solid years. Only that one copy. Now it's you'll see an illustrator sell a couple times every year now. It's just a whole new world we're in. So back then you really didn't have it. So luckily for me, most of the stuff I was buying back then was just from the winners or whoever finally decided to sell. But ultimately, again, it's just a preference. I'd choose a preference. I don't think it's at the point that is bad. If anything, it's stimulated the market. It's given collectors more of an opportunity to collect cards they otherwise wouldn't be able to obtain. Going back to that illustrator, when there's only one of them, only one person can have it. When you have a couple extra, more people can have it. So I could see both sides here. I feel the frustration, especially as someone who owns mostly awarded copies. I probably should be more frustrated than I am, but again, it's more of a preference than a prejudice. So we're going to go through some examples here. The first one is Art Academy cards. I think they're the poster child for extra copies. So Art Academy, if you won the contest, you were given 100 copies from Pokemon. Now, the thing we learned is that that's 100 copies to the winner, not 100 copies in total. That's what people learned. That was a hard pill to swallow for those level 1, Squirtles and Poliwags like smpratte circa 2006. That was a tough, hard lesson to learn, is that Pokemon can print this. At the end of the day, those artists don't own the rights to that. That's Pokemon who owns the rights to Pokemon. I think a really good way to drive this home is that Arita and the longest artists who have been around forever in Pokemon, go down the line, like Arita, Fukuda, etc., go down the line, Himeno, their contracts are so binding that they can't just illustrate stuff for their family or friends. For anyone who's done a consignment with an artist, to get something painted or drawn for them, they know that it has to be something personal. You do your pet, you do a picture of you or whatever. I should get one done at the grandma house, but that's really it. That's all you can do. You can't do Pokemon because it's so binding. So even the artists up there, the literal top dogs, don't have rights to print these cards and make the printers go burr. So clearly the winners here, the rando winner who won the contest, doesn't either. Why I say that is because there was a harsh reaction, in my opinion, a bit too far with some of the winners from Art Academy who actually spoiled it for a lot of the other winners. For those people who won, some of them wanted to grade these cards and sell them because they're artists, and being an artist is a starving career. It's not, unless you're Banksy, it's not that lucrative. It's a tough grind. So for them, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, these crazy collectors are willing to pay me thousands of dollars, and I can go send these in. They'll pay more for a PSA 10, 9, or whatever. But that was, of course, all ruined because of the couple petulant artists who complained and threatened legal action, which they have no legal standing, because they were just frustrated to see these extra copies on the market. So that one had a little sour situation occur, and ultimately it was a net loss because now the actual artists themselves who want to sell to make money on the cards they were awarded can't. The collectors who want to collect this stuff, it's harder for them to do that. So it's just an overreaction is the takeaway here, because it's not, again, they don't own the rights to the cards, so they don't have the legal standing. So that's it. That's enough. But moreover, it's a freaking Pokemon card. Like, even for me, I love this stuff, but man, some people, like, we need to have like a 30-minute recess for someone to go outside, touch some grass, take a deep breath, do a little meditation, because that was one where it went a little too sour. Another example that's more positive are the snap cards, and they're kind of like the early Art Academy, if you will, whereas the same type of deal. When you won, you sent in your photo, you got 20 copies of that card, but again, 20 copies given to the winner, not 20 copies in total. And as we know, in the modern era, a lot of those cards that hit the market were extra copies, and they've done wonders for collectors who wanted to buy them that otherwise would have never found it. There's so many people on E4 who have a snap card now because of that. So there's a lot of positives here that come with, I'm trying to highlight the positives and the negatives. I don't see as many negatives yet. Now, one thing I'm going to get to is that if you had a huge tidal wave, like let's say, 100 copies or 20 copies given out, and you had 1,000 copies, right? That's a different ballgame. But so far, it's just been a few peppered in over time, so it really has been negligible. In fact, all it's done is stimulate the market further and allow more people, to buy these cards. And more importantly, for the people who are still hellbent and they think, nah, I'm going to die on the hill, screw these extra copies. Here's my response to that. Are you going to pay a premium for the real one? Because I've yet to see a person who's willing to pay a premium for the awarded copy. I'm waiting for that person. So I got plenty of them. I got plenty of awarded copies. So that's really, I think, the little tongue-in-cheek response there for people who are really frustrated still with the extra copies is that I don't see people paying a huge premium for the awarded ones. And again, because they're still so rare, there's just not enough. If we're talking thousands of thousands, like truckloads, Sopranos fell off the truck and there's like thousands now of all these rare cards, sure, that's a different ballgame. I'd definitely be more frustrated with that. But so far, there just hasn't been an exorbitant explosion of extras yet. And that's why I think people aren't paying a premium for the awarded, because there's still just not enough. There's not enough supply. Now, this is some potential solutions that are being thrown around. If you stuck through all that, we got some potential solutions right now from grading companies, some suggestions within the community. And to me, they're very short-sighted, but we're going to talk about them. Number one, only grading sun-faded trophies, because that means it's awarded. You see the obvious problem with this. It's going to be Laguna Beach all over. We're going to go right back to 2005 and throw these trophy cards at tanning beds. Like, it's just not a good move. I don't think that does anything. I think all it's going to do is just people are going to start taking their trophy cards with them to the beach, and it's just not I don't know what that even does. I don't know what that's solving. I think, again, that's more of just like the emotional people getting really into it, like tunnel vision, and they're like, yeah, only organic copies will be sun faded. You can sit a card outside for 6 months, a few months, it's going to get sun faded. Like, it's not a solution. So I hope that doesn't happen, because then we're just going to destroy a lot of these like beautiful cards for no reason. The other one was only grading cards and plaques. Now, this one's a little bit better than the Laguna Beach option. Like, I'm glad we're out of the mid-2000s and we're not walking around orange anymore, but I don't think that is also a ironclad solution for it. When you have a case, there's a lot there. There's a lot that you can do. So number one, not all trophies are awarded in cases. In fact, when you go to the World Championship Tournament every year, some years it's a top loader. Some years it's I have some in my off camera here. Some of the cases that they came in. It's just like some ultra pro that they bought on the way to the tournament. Some of them are just rando cases or none at all. So that's not a foolproof way. Even when you go back to some of these tournaments, let's just pick a line like here. Pika rings. How many Victory Orb Mews were just raw? Given out raw. So it's not fair. That's not really a solution. Sure, for the ones that have the case, yeah, especially the mid 2000s and later 2000s, they're harder to replicate. But a lot of those early ones, I don't know. I don't have my scumbag Pratt hat on. I don't know how hard it is to replicate them, but some of them are just like clear cases. I have some of the 2000 early Battle Roads, even some of the early Pikas. It's just like a clear case, a little plaque. I don't know how hard it is to replicate. I feel like it isn't that hard to replicate. So again, I don't think this is 100%. I think it's better than the tanning option, than the sun faded option, but it's not a wholesale solution. There is no 100% solution. Even the people like on E4, the deep state lurkers who have every card notated and know where everything is at all times, I just don't think, even me, I'll say it for me, like the trophy card, whatever, call me whatever you want. This is my specialty, and I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, this is an awarded one, this one isn't. Sure, there's more obvious cases and more obvious cases of awarded versus non, but I don't think that's the route to go. I think if anything, if grading companies start trying to gatekeep and label that this one was awarded, this one's not, it's a very, very slippery slope. That's very slippery. And I just don't like companies that don't have the top people in there working, making those calls. Even for me, I'm one of those people and I don't feel comfortable doing it. So I don't know how someone with less experience and knowledge is going to do it better. It just feels artificial. It feels like a weird, like it comes again, I think, from people just being too in the weeds, too tunnel vision here. And the one thing I want to close with, if you stuck through it all, is that no matter how you feel, and especially for the people who have a negative view on this, the birthday Pikachu is the best story. Because markets self-regulate. Markets are a beautiful thing, especially in collectibles. They're always very instantly self-regulating. Look where we were in 2020. Look where we are today. Different in a couple years. Markets, I've said it back then, just chill out. Markets are going to self-regulate. Same with this one. Birthday Pikachu is the best story you ever need to know about extra copies. Because Birthday Pikachu is the worst offender. It's what we were talking about before, where you thought it was really rare and ends up being thousands and thousands of copies. That was Birthday Pikachu. Everyone talked about back in the day. I heard rumors about it. We talked about as kids at recess in the 90s. You thought it was like the rarest thing, the white star Pikachu card. Everybody thought that back then. Sold for about $500, $400, PS10, somewhere in there. And then, of course, shortly after, people realized, oh, wait, there's like thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of copies of this card. It's not super rare. Fast forward today, guess how much it sells for? It sells for more than it did back then when people thought it was super rare. So that is the beauty of not only market self-regulating, but Pokemon. Pokemon is such a robust market and has so much demand. And there's so many people that want, especially cards like Birthday Pikachu, it's a staple item. It's an S-tier popular card. I think the Gold Star dogs are also another mention. That's probably one of the other big offenders of extra, the biggest offender, I think, so far of extra copies, like thousands extra of each one of those. And the market self-regulates. The market will correctly react to added supply, and then, it'll do its thing. And if the printers go burr and there's like these mystery Japanese people that pop out with these ultra rare cards and there's too many of them, the market will react to that. And if you want to track them and say this one's not as good as the, awarded one, what I said earlier, I'm still waiting for those people to pay a premium on the awarded one, so maybe that'll happen. I don't know, but it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, that's really the breakdown here on extra copies is as it stands, and as someone who probably is the most affected by it, it's more of a preference than a prejudice. Yeah, I prefer the awarded copy, but ultimately, the others are authentic in physicality. And they also are printed under the umbrella of an actual release, where when you step outside of that, I have a hard stance on cards that are unofficial. Like, oh, this one card that only the employees know about and only they printed and only they tell you about the numbers and only they know, that's a different story. These are actually documented cards that just have extra copies because, again, it's printed in a factory. They aren't handmade from collectors like us who just love this stuff. Pokemon's like, okay, we're going to do this cute little thing for this cute tournament. And hey, Nishida, will you do it? Or Rita, will you do this one? And then they do it and they print it and they're done. It's us who has this affinity for them and who gets way deep into it with this emotion. At the end of the day, Pokemon has all the rights. They have all the legal whatever, and they can do what they want. And I say that as someone who spent millions of dollars on buying these cards, these very rare cards or whatever it is. Just trying to give you the moderate answer there that I don't think it's a DEF CON 1 situation. And again, with Birthday Pikachu, that was that situation when it was thousands and thousands of more copies than we thought. The price is still more today. It still was enough supply. So we're at that state now where, yeah, we have a few handful of copies trickled out there in the market for pretty much a lot of the big cards. And why we know that is because they're so rare and we can document them. But again, to me, at the end of the day, it's more of a preference than a prejudice. So that's what I have, guys. This was a fun one. I could go on and on about this. This was a fun topic. So as usual, hopefully this was entertaining, useful for you. And you know the deal. Let me know how you feel. Till next time, guys.